I'll concentrate on what Hezbollah's domestic takes are and their relations with Syria and Iran. And let's start with the relations with Syria, since Andrew was talking about that. The Hezbollah, since the end of the war in 2006, has only strengthened its position, regionally and domestically in Lebanon. It's by far the most important player. And regardless of what might happen in the election, it's going to be which side that, no matter which side's going to win, it's going to be a very tight race. And I think that Hezbollah today is very well situated to handle a defeat as well as a victory at the polls. Now, taking into the relations with Syria, looking at that, I think that it's pretty clear that for Hezbollah, Syria is important because that's where they get their material, their weapons, their ammunition from Syria. But it's not as important as the relations with Iran. Hezbollah knows that, and Syria knows that. And what one can see, looking back over the past years, just since the end of the war, is that they've been, in a sense, trying to downplay the relations with Syria, presented some independent position towards Syria regarding Lebanon, and emphasizing the fact that it's a Lebanese movement first and foremost. And I think that will continue. They are very well aware of the fact that they do have constraints, and that it's very important to present themselves as a Lebanese movement. I'm not necessarily sure it's going to fool that many people, though, because the relationships are there, and it's very clear that they would not be where they are today if it weren't for the support from Syria and Iran. Iran, again, is by far the most important actor here for Hezbollah, and these relationships are very tight in all kinds of ways. The fact that, for instance, Iran has various, some of the departments or ministries in Iran has offices in Lebanon. They have a fairly good take on the operational sides of what Hezbollah is doing in Lebanon, something that's one can see has actually been more important since the killing of Mujniya. So Iran is the relationship that Hezbollah are very careful to keep, and this is interesting and important for some other reasons too. Not the least the fact that the discussion is going on here, very much here, but also in Europe to a lesser extent, on how to put a wedge in between Syria and Iran, for instance, and maybe using Hezbollah for that, to that effect, is, I think, a very long shot. It's nothing that will happen soon, to put it mildly. I think, to put it less mildly, I think it's a pipe dream to believe that Hezbollah and Syria and Iran will lessen their relationship because of they want to have a deal with for instance, with Israel. Syria might go for that, and that might happen, but they will not discharge Hezbollah. I don't think so. And even less, that's the case even less when it comes to Iran. So that relationship between Hezbollah and Iran will be there for a long time. In their own sort of take on things, in Hezbollah's own view of, when they look at themselves, they are actually on a winning streak, I would say. It's a very slick movement. Their analysis of for instance, Israeli politics is good. They know what they're up against. They know what they want on a long-term basis. They have a fairly clear ideological base for what they do. Something at least we in Europe very often are underplaying or misunderstanding. It's especially for someone coming from a very secular Nordic country, it's kind of hard to take people seriously when they say, well, God told me to do this or that. We have a hard time believing that, and we have a hard time actually realizing that this is the case sometimes. But apart from that, I think when you look at what they say and what they do, and is that they feel themselves very well poised to get even stronger after the elections now in June. Domestically, there are constraints, of course. I mean, the way the Lebanese elections are constructed today makes it very difficult for them to have more votes than they have. As was pointed out by Andrew and as is pointed out in the policy watch by David Schenker here, you know, the numbers are very set. So the differences, that's where the competition will be. But if they win, if the March 18 coalition wins, the worst thing that can happen, I think, from Hizballah's point of view, is that there will be a very narrow coalition government. If that happens, they will want to include other actors too, and you know, we'll have to wait and see. Even if the March 14 forces have said that they're not going to sit in the government together with Hizballah, that remains to be seen. And if they do lose, it's going to be again a very small, a very narrow difference here, and they will probably still be in a position to influence to a large degree who's going to be in the government and what that government might be able to do. Actually, I think that they would rather have it in the way that they just lose, because that will be easier to influence, I think, from the outside. And regardless of whether they win or not, they will keep their position in Lebanon when it comes to their military build-up in the south, their control of finances in the south, their control of, I mean, they have their own communication system. They have a very good take on who's coming into the airport and who's coming into through the ports today. That's not going to change. And again, on the whole, if you look back over the years since Hizballah was established, they've done remarkably well. And from being just one of many actors, armed actors in Lebanon, they've reached a position from where they can decide actually if Lebanon's going to be thrown into war or not. That's a very long way, and it's from their point of view very successful. So, and this is important to remember, I think, because the idea with trying to engage them, like the British decision now to re-engage with Hizballah, the rationale behind that is, of course, that if you engage with them, you can make them change. That is not going to happen either, I'm pretty sure, because there's really no incentive for them to do that. They are winning. Why should they change? I'm not necessarily saying that you shouldn't engage, but I think one should be very careful of what it is one wants to achieve by engaging. Now, if you want them to change into liberal Democrats, it's not going to happen. If you want them to maybe keep the border to Israel quiet, yes, maybe, as long as it's in Hizballah's interest. And I'm not so sure that we in the West are necessarily that perceptive to what they are actually saying that they want to do. Because long term, the Hizballah has very clear goals, both as a domestic Lebanese player and in the wider Middle East. And I think we should remember that clearly. And finally, again, looking back at what they have achieved over the years, I would say that it's a good example of how terrorism might pay. On that happy note, I think I'll hand over to John.
Thank you.